Yeah, hi peeps, it's Tersse back in the old squat box again, and I'm here because I'm very drunk and I've had a really crazy idea about, let's just finish that, a nice big gigantic glass of whiskey, fuck it, because I'm going to need that glass of whiskey to get through what I'm trying to express here. Physicists have this crazy idea that the universe is like one big gigantic bubble expanding into whatever was there before the bubble expanded. And they look at the distance that light's travelled from a far distance away, and they calculate that that boundary to that boundary is what, the distance of the bubble, and then they calculate the spherical size or donut size of the universe and say we only see this certain amount of mass, and for that amount of mass to fill this bubble there's just not enough. And what I've been thinking is, if you were to take a pipe and stick it into a swimming pool, go down, say you had 20 metres by 20 metres by 20 metres square cube, and you had a pipe that went all the way into the very centre of that cube of water, and then you put a huge burst of air through that pipe. It wouldn't just come out as one big giant bubble, would it? No, it would come out as all tiny wee bubbles, right? So my idea is the universe, all the galaxies, each galaxy is a bubble. In between those bubbles, there's what we would call empty space. There might be tiny little particles, because every square metre of space has got like at least one atom in it, But so that would be the same if you put a burst of air into water. There would still be tiny wee bubbles you wouldn't be able to see, but there would be big bubbles you would see, and there would be tiny bubbles and smaller bubbles. You would see all these bubbles all different sizes, all exploding and expanding in a swimming pool. What if the universe is a bit like that? What if galaxies are the bubbles, the air bubbles you would see in a swimming pool, but there's still the emptiness between the galaxies? You know what I mean? A lot of emptiness that all those bubbles are actually pushing out into it, so that the universe is expanding like a cloud of air bubbles in a swimming pool. Although we see the universe as all these collection of bubbles, and we measure it and say, well, that's the size of the universe, and therefore there's there's only a quarter of the amount of universe for the size of it. But what if galaxies themselves are actually just bubbles within our universe, and in between those galaxies there's actually still some, well, my analogy is water between those universes, between those galaxies, there's still some of the nothingness that all the bubbles as a collection are expanding into. That would mean that there isn't any extra energy to make up. All we're seeing is that galaxies are far enough apart, as bubbles in a swimming pool, and some water, some nothingness is still left between the galaxies. But we're calculating that emptiness between the galaxies is still part of the universe. I mean, light travels through the nothingness, yes, but I'm sure if you were outside the universe, if you were an observer outside the universe, you would see the universe grow into the nothingness. You would still see that light, no matter how far away you were. The fact that we put a boundary on the universe's outer edge, and we think there's nothing beyond that, and we're expanding into nothingness. Well, maybe we're not expanding into nothingness. Maybe the universe is just like a bunch of bubbles in a swimming pool, and if you were in the swimming pool watching the bubbles be shot out of the tube, you would still see all those bubbles expand as a group of bubbles, you know. So you would still see from outside the universe at the same speed of light, because light travels through nothing. We just say that that nothing is part of the universe. So in between galaxies is really the nothingness that we're expanding into. But we're trying to calculate this nothingness as having mass and energy and weight, when a lot of it doesn't. So, you know, is it possible that would account for the supposed 3/4 of the universe that we just can't account for? The fact that we're trying to calculate the water between the bubbles as part of the bubble. I don't know if anybody's going to understand what I'm trying to say, you know. I took this simple analogy of putting the air into a swimming pool and I thought, okay, the air would come out and it would all rise up. But just imagine if it all expanded from a central point, you know, and equidistant, and you know, and there was no gravity and there was no rising to the surface and that, but it just expanded out. The bubbles all just expanded out in an equilibrium sort of sphere, you know. There would still be water in between those bubbles of air, you know. But if you looked at it, it would be just a gigantic explosion of air. You would see it as an explosion of air bubbles, you know. But they are just the galaxies within the universe. And in between the galaxies, we would not get out there and done any calculations. We've done it within our solar system. Yes, we've checked within the solar system. There's radiation and all that. No, but we've never been outside of our galaxy. What if between our galaxy and the next galaxy there isn't 1 atom per square metre? What if there is nothing and galaxies don't have anything between them? Galaxies are like bubbles of air in a swimming pool. That would mean that, you know, all you've got to do is count the amount of galaxies, count their size, and then calculate the size, the true size of the universe from that amount of mass. And it may also account for the fact that we're speeding up, because when you blow air into a swimming pool, you know, I know that's a bad analogy again, because we've got gravity and air rises to the surface of water. But if, for instance, you know, there was no pull for galaxies to go in any one direction, you know, and just say if you put water in a central point and nothing, a null zone, you know, a dot in the middle of that gigantic 10 by 10 by 10 tank, and it just expanded, that burst of air just expanded in every direction. Like we think that the universe is a sort of a donut shape. You know, why should it be a donut shape? We've got to account for that as well. Why would the universe be a donut shape, not a sphere? Maybe there's something that we're not getting. We've not been beyond the boundary of our galaxy. We can see other galaxies, light from our galaxies reaches us, but we've got no idea what there is between the boundary of each galaxy and the boundary of another galaxy. We've got no idea what's between the surface of one bubble and another bubble. We just assume that between those galaxies it's the same. But perhaps, like air bubbles in a swimming pool, there is a sort of, you know, an end and then a start when you travel from one bubble to the next. You know, I'm just imagining, how could we account for the fact that, you know, there's not enough mass to account for the farthest bubble and the next bubble? If you take out all the distances between each bubble, if you could put all the bubbles together and make them one big gigantic sphere of air, because that doesn't happen underwater, no. But if you could, say you could blow a bubble, you know, you take bubble thing, you go and you blow one big gigantic bubble, right? If you could take all the distances between all the galaxies and put all the galaxies touching each other so they were one big giant bubble, would the distance from one edge of the furthest galaxy touching the next galaxy and have no distance between them, would that change the amount of mass that we assume is in the galaxy, or need to be in the galaxy, the universe, or need to be in the universe to make everything add up? If we take the space between galaxies away and make the galaxy small, if we take away the distance we're rushing away from each other, and just add all the weight of the galaxies together, why isn't a quarter of the weight of the universe enough for it to have a universe? Isn't the universe just weigh a quarter of what we see because we're adding in distance? The actual mass, if you put it all together, might be what the universe weighs. Maybe we don't need another 3/4 of anything to make anything. Maybe we're just making it too complicated for ourselves because we've never been between galaxies. We've never had a ship out between our galaxy and the next to say that there's nothing there, apart from tachyons and light and energy flying between them. But if you just take the nothingness away and put it all together, wouldn't it add up to the weight of the universe? I think it would. I don't know if I've explained it properly or explained it right, but I'm just wondering if there's anybody out there who can maybe do a calculation, a mathematical calculation, and calculate the actual weight of the universe by just calculating the weight of all the known, all the seen, galaxies. If you added all the galaxies up, right, we say it's a quarter of what the universe is, but if you could add all the galaxies up, or the space that the galaxies take up, and then detract that from what we think the size of the universe is, and then assume that that's the actual size of the universe, and stuff in between is nothing, wouldn't that just be the weight of the universe, and we wouldn't have to account for anything? If you want to account for the speed that we're rushing away from each other, and the distance between them, I think gravity actually gives you that answer. Especially if there was some kind of repulsive energy at the very start. So really what we're saying is we don't know the weight of the mass that we should have in the universe because we don't know what caused the expansion. If we could solve the expansion of the universe, we might find out we do not need that 3/4 of dark matter or dark energy to account for the expansion. We need to know what caused the expansion before we can even say we need to account for 3/4 of stuff we don't know exists. You know what I mean? Maybe that 3/4 of stuff doesn't exist. We need to know what caused the expansion in order to justify whether or not we're looking for 3/4 of the mass of the universe. Because I think we might sometime in the future find out that we don't need to account for that 3/4. It is just stupid. We thought it was there, so we had to account for it, stuff, you know what I mean? Anyway, this has been a rambling video, I know. But I don't know whether there is any dark energy or dark matter. I really don't. And if my thoughts are anywhere near some idea of what could be going on, then we don't really need to account for any dark matter or any dark energy. What we need to do is find out what actually caused the expansion, because if there was a burst of energy, a burst of repulsive energy at the very start of the universe, then that itself would give us the expansion, and we wouldn't need to be looking for any energy to continue it. We would just need to know what caused the acceleration of expansion, Might not be any need to discover any new form of energy or matter at all whatsoever. Could be that it's all there already. And I'm not saying it's fucking God, I'm just saying it could be a completely fine physics reason for what's happening. Take for instance, as I say, you pump a bubble of air into a pool of water and it rushes to the surface for some reason. Now, we don't know what the universe is or what medium it sits in. But just like air rushing to the surface of a swimming pool, perhaps the creation of the quarter of the supposed amount of matter we need for a universe being created in that medium might make it expand into that space. Without it needing, it might not be being pushed, it might be being drawn, or it might be just aggregating to fill a certain amount of space the best it can. There might be a real, unless we know the medium that the universe sits in, we can't say it isn't like a bubble of air being released underwater. We would have to know something beyond our ken. We would have to know what lies outside the universe in order to understand whether we need any extra matter or energy inside the universe to make it expand. We would need to know things we just can't possibly know at the moment. And don't get me wrong, it's probably good that we do speculate that we need this energy, because when we prove it we don't, when we prove it doesn't exist, then we will have to go on and think about things like this, where it might be something that's totally outside of our universe that's actually making it expand. And the gaps between the galaxies within the universe are just standard normal emptiness that we've basically filled with tiny little bubbles of the universe, enough to make it not be completely empty. And as we spread out into the nothingness, we're going to leave a little trace behind of every universe and of every galaxy until eventually we have a gigantic tank filled, one atom for every square meter. As the universe maybe dies and fades out, it will just crumble and break down into one atom in every square meter of space that it takes its place in. Maybe that's the end result, I don't know. I mean, basically, if you could put oxygen into the bottom of the ocean, how much air, how much oxygen from a litre of oxygen released at the bottom, the deepest crevice of the ocean, how much of that oxygen would reach the surface before it dissolved out into the sea as it rose through it? Guarantee if you release a litre of oxygen at the deepest part of the ocean, and then we're able to capture what hit the surface, it wouldn't be a litre. Some of it would have been dissolved into the ocean, And I think maybe that's what's happening to the universe, our universe, as it expands. We're just dissolving into the nothingness that we're expanding, or we call it nothingness, but who knows what it is, because we've never been outside the universe to find out what it is we're expanding into. It's one of the deepest questions. It's more even deeper than does God exist. It's more even deeper than what am I? What lies beyond the very edge of our universe? What is the universe expanding into? That's a deep, deep fucking question. And whatever it is, maybe we're just dissolving into it. Maybe that's what's happened to the universe. We're just dissolving atom by atom into whatever it is that we're expanding into. Am I drunk enough? Have I fucked with your minds? Fucked with your minds enough? So on you fucking bat.